Flight Boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You're now listening to the Mind of an Antares Moon, Flight Boss, the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucker responsibilities. And I want to tell you about the importance of Mercury. Yeah, the importance of Mercury. And we're going to go to the metaphysics and the behind-the-scenes realm of the characteristics that Mercury is playing in your motherfucking life. So Mercury is very motherfucking important. So this is what you need to know about Mercury. First of all, it's the closest to the sun. So it's like the baby and things of that nature. But when we talk about things being closer to the sun, what is the sun? The sun is your actions, how you act, what you're consciously aware of, how you see things, how you view things. So the sun is like your bodies of light. We know bodies of light is forms of information. These are one of the first forms of bodies that you have took as a spirit to start experiencing this realm of reality and the way this realm is interacting with lights. So the sun is closest to your spirit because it's one of the first forms of body, forms of light. So since Mercury is close to the sun in this realm of reality, Mercury is going to be closely related to understanding the spirit more quicker than a lot of the other planets. So because a lot of the other planets may tap you into your lower natures. Mercury tap you into your higher natures, which is more closer to like the sun, Jupiter, you know, Mercury, which Mercury and Jupiter, they're opposites, but we're going to get into that. But for the most part, by Mercury being closest to the sun, utilizing that body, those forms and those lights will tap you into the spirit also. Now, you know, the sun is just another body, another light form, but it's the one that's most accessible to the spirit. The spirit took one of those forms, like to take those forms first. So for the most part, when we look at Mercury, Mercury is dealing with the thinking, the intellect, the way you communicate, the way you put together things in your mind, as far as metaphors and puzzles, your curiosity to understand what's around you. So it taps you into the fourth dimension. So this lets you know that the moon, that the mind is related to Mercury. Now Mercury is a physical shape and form in this realm of reality. So we know the mind is just a higher version of a shape and form. And it's like your mind is what you create as a tunnel or a cord, like from your neighbor or something like that, to tether into these realms of realities and plug yourself in to a body or a shape or form, aka a light or a gas or a sound in this realm. So when we talk about the mind, it takes structure and it takes some sense of direction and some sense of, you know what I'm saying? So when you think about Mercury, right, it taps you into thinking, communicating, analyzing. That's another light body. That doesn't take physical shapes and forms. That doesn't even take your lower natures to play out in your physical form to take. You can sit back and relax and nobody can know what's on your mind. So that those forms of bodies are lighter bodies that your spirit can take in order to, you know, travel and, you know, do a lot of things when it's not utilizing this body. See, your spirit is sitting behind utilizing your mind, utilizing all the utilizing every cell, utilizing every body as far as what it needs to do to experience realms of realities. So, you know, Mercury dives motherfucking deep. So when we talk about Mercury, it's dealing with the mind. So, you know, it's the way of thinking, communicating, and analyzing and putting together structures in your mind based upon what you're seeing as far as signs and symbols and what's in the external realm and the realm of reality that you are experiencing. So when we look at the sign that Mercury is in, that's going to tell me or tell you how your Mercury is constructed. This is how your Mercury plays out, the sign of it. Now the actual angles of other planets hitting it and the relationships that they have with your Mercury as far as Jupiter, Mars, and things, and Venus. Now the relationship that they have with your Mercury is going to adjust how you put out your Mercury. Now this is how you do your Mercury. Now the houses, which is the next important thing, right, is going to let you know what area of life you're going to be pushing out your Mercury energy in. So since you have 12 houses, you have 12 areas of life. So whatever area, whatever house Mercury falls in is going to be the house, the area of life that you penetrate your Mercury energy in. And your Mercury energy is going to be the sign and the angles that's angling your sign, your Mercury, that Mercury is in. So let's break down a few examples. Mercury and fire. Now Mercury being in fire, this is a person who correlate their mind in the way that they think, communicate, and analyze and put together structures in their mind. They do it based upon their visions, their creativity, the way they see things, the way they feel due to their visions and in the right brain point of view, but in a way of bringing the right brain into the left brain, or in the way of bringing the right brain into the external realm. in the yang realm. You see what I'm saying? So letting the vision be expressed. So we know visions is nothing more but experiencing the emotions and feelings, but giving it a color, person, place, or thing based upon the realm of reality that you are in when you are awake. So that's what a vision is. We can't see that imagination or that coloring and things of that nature until you express it. So this would make fire signs expressive. So they express the internal into the external, which is right brain being pushed out into the yang realm. So they are yang, right brain signs. So when you want to think about separating it, you have the cardinal, fixed, and you have the mutable. Now, cardinal initiates and creates, so it usher in. So it's always the energy before it takes the shape and form in this realm of reality. So the cardinal signs is always the energy itself before it's seen in any realm of reality. Fixed signs. The fixed signs they're actually the manifestation and the physical form of that element. So it's what you can see of that element. So a fixed sign, when you see in fixed water, earth, air, or water, or fire, I think that's the one I didn't say. When you're seeing the earth, when you're seeing the fixated qualities, this is what you see in this reality. You see how fire relate to this realm of reality. You see how water relate to this realm of reality. You can actually feel how air relate and see the examples of what air is doing and the traits it have in this realm of reality. You can kind of see the structures and the pattern and the stability of the land and the mass and the earth qualities that you're on when you're thinking about fixated qualities. So that's the fixed. Now mutable bring in transformation. So they're able to add ideas to the fixed quality so it could transform, and then they're able to go and disappear into the realm where the cardinal sign is at, where actually they can initiate and create also. So they can play both roles. Now for the most part, so this would make some frivolous at times, or this will make them strong at times based upon other planetary alignments. But when it comes to the mutable signs, they bring in transformation. So all mutable signs see things from a broad perspective because they are mutable and they are able to adapt to their own or other people's ways of the energy. So when we talk about earth, that's thinking and being practical. When we talk about water, that's feelings and emotions. When we talk about fire, that's feelings and seeing and vision. When we talk about earth, that's thinking and being practical. So the mutable elements they come to the broad conclusions of their elements. Fire sign, the Sagittarius will come to a broad conclusion on how they see and feel about the world that they are in. This is what makes them wise with experiences and get into spirituality. Earth will be Virgo. This what makes them mutable and being able to adapt to their own or other people's ways of thinking and being practical. This will make Virgos worry, but also like the schedule and see how things work and look at the details and even make them criticizing at times because they're seeing how things work in their own life, but also seeing how others get these things working and how concepts work in general. And when they don't take practical cause or schedule and don't see things going towards protocol, this will make them scatter and nerve-wracking a little bit because they're trying to assess it from a broad perspective so they can always be on schedule without seeing any mishaps or stumbles and falls before the thing take place that they got scheduled. When we talk about Gemini, they come from a mutable perspective when it comes to thinking and communicating. So this is air mutable, so they like to think and communicate from a broad perspective. They very relatable. They know how to communicate. They know how to use words. They know how to use their mental. They know how to manipulate with the mind. You see what I'm saying? And then when we talk about water, that'd be Pisces mutable. They know how to adapt to their own and other people's feelings and emotions. So off the bat, they know how to resonate, take shapes and forms of the environment and the people that they're around. So discernment, concern, and know how to be passive or aggressive when the time need be, based upon planetary alignments. So when we talk about breaking it down as far as your Mercury, it being in fire, cardinal, it will initiate and create. So a lot of times you are initiating and creating new ways of how to think and how to see and feel about your thoughts and what you're coming up with and how you're trying to construct your thoughts. If we're talking about fire, cardinal fire, right? So Mercury is thinking, communicating, and analyzing. If it's in cardinal fire, which is Aries, that means it's trying to initiate and create new ways of how to see and feel about the thoughts that it's receiving and the way it's communicating. So a lot of times it may not create a lot of balance when it comes to receiving other people's ways of thinking, communicating, and analyzing. You may be direct-minded to the point you don't like to align other people's ideas, but for the most part, this makes you very inspirational and be able to have thoughts that nobody ever had before. Cardinal water. That'd be Cancer. So Mercury here is the way you think, communicate, and analyze, but it's wrapped around cardinal water, initiating and creating new ways of dealing with the emotions and feelings. So your mind is not really correlated on logic, same way as the fire, as Mercury and fire. Now Mercury and fire is right brain, but is right brain needing to be expressed in the yang realm. Fire and water is right brain also, but it's right brain and it's yin, so it's double yin. Fire is yin, because the right brain is yin automatically, and yang is automatically external. You see what I'm saying? Now water is yin. So off the bat, when you got Mercury and water, this makes a person likes to think and communicate and analyze about their emotions and feelings in some way, shape, or form. Now specifically Cancer, you like to initiate and create new ways of dealing with the emotions and feelings. So you the type of person who like to communicate and give ideas on how other people should feel. Or a lot of times you talk yourself into feelings and moods and emotions and feelings, whether it's getting yourself out of bad ones or putting yourself into good ones. But for the most part, this is the scenario that you that your mind is on, as far as a Cancer Mercury. Libra Mercury. Libra is cardinal air, initiating and creating new ways of how to think and communicate. So off the back, what's on your mind and how you think and communicate in general is in air, off the back being in Libra, so it's going to fly like a bird, might be a social butterfly, but at the same time, you need to know how to slow that down so you don't make your partner feel like you're cheating or you're too open. But that's besides the fact. Talking with Mercury being in Libra, the way you think, communicate, and analyze is going to be filtered out through balance, being fair in communication, letting another person speak, seeing both sides of something, seeing when one person is getting the short end of the stick, and this is what your mind is on, and this is what you're puzzled about. So sometimes it puzzles you when you're around people who are selfish or don't consider the people that they are around, or in things of that nature. So it puzzles you, and sometimes it make you want to step in and maybe give this person some advice, and this what makes you appear to be the leader a lot of times when it comes into the mental. Mercury and Capricorn, this is cardinal earth, initiating and creating new ways of how to think and be practical. Now, for the most part, this is ultimately making sense when it's in earth signs in general, but let's talk about the cardinal. Now, Mercury, that's Capricorn. So the way you think, communicate, and analyze and be curious and put together puzzles in your mind is going to be curated around structure, about status, about what you're known for, how you're seen, and ultimately, about gaining structure in your life and thinking and being practical. So you like to talk and think about things that make sense, things that's practical, things that's in reality, things that create foundation, things that's business orientated, not shit that's just based upon a motherfucker's imagination, aka, or visions, aka fire, or not just something based upon a motherfucking feelings because they're in their feelings or their emotions, aka water, or not just based upon a motherfucking thoughts or the ideas that they may have, aka air. Earth motherfucking need hardcore concrete facts when we motherfucking thinking and planning and scheduling and making up shit. So this is what a Mercury Capricorn is on. So this what makes them very entrepreneurial, very organizing, very what's the word I'm looking for, when you know how to bring things together, very but that's besides the fact. Entrepreneurial is a good word. So you're a person who know how to bring together business and know how to organize and socialize, and you're very out there when it comes to these things, but you can get lost into that and only think about that and don't care about other people's feelings, and you can start to make other people feel like you're using them to a certain degree. Now Mercury getting into the houses, this is also important because this is going to tell you the area of life which your mind is always on. So Mercury in the sign is telling you how you think. Now, the house is in is telling you what you're always thinking about. So what you're thinking about is going to be the area of life that your mind is always on. But how you're thinking about this shit is the sign that your Mercury is in. You see what I'm saying? For an example, my Mercury is Aries, 3 degrees Aries. So for the most part, the way I think, communicate, and analyze is in a cardinal fire way, as I explained it. I like to initiate and create new ways of how to see and feel about the things that I think about and the way I communicate and how I see. This is why I come up with certain words and names and things of that nature. Now, that's how I think, in Mercury being in Aries. Now, the things I'm always thinking about when I'm going about how I think is the 8th house. I have a Pisces 8th house. So Mercury falls in my 8th house because it didn't reach the degree that my 9th house starts in. You see what I'm saying? So it falls in the 8th house. So my 9th house starts at 17 degrees Aries. So Mercury didn't quite make it to that area of life. So just because it's in the sign, this is how I think. The area of life of how I think is in the area of life of the 8th house. So this is the space that my mind is in. This is the space that my Mercury thinkings is in. So this is what I'm constantly thinking about. 8th house type shit. So the first thing I'm always thinking about, right, is alternative motives based upon other people. Passions, desires, motivations, the behind the scenes realm. Astrology, occult, life, death, sex, mysticism, occult. When I say occult, that's just all things behind closed doors. So that's like sex, and everything does sex. That's just the joining of two energies to create another body, another energy. When I say life and death, that's just transformation. That could go into many areas. When I say mysticism, that's just communicating with the unknown. I could communicate with you without using any verbal usage. You see what I'm saying? So if I could resonate with you, that's mysticism. So for the most part, there's many different mysticisms out here. There's many different communicating with the unknowns out here without using verbal usage. But at the same time, people just have to use their common sense to know what's actually going on. So when you say things like, I need to listen to the mind, or I need to listen to the heart, you're talking about your heart blood cells. You're talking about your mind blood cells and the spirits within them. And a lot of times, those spirits are a lot smarter than you because they're coming from the natural energies before even being birthed in this realm of reality as a baby. So, you know what I'm saying? A lot of their knowledge is before baby-like knowledge here. So a lot of times it's very important to listen to the heart and the mind. Once you start listening to the gut and your lower chakras and your sex organs and shit like that, you might get lost into your lower natures. But for the most part, we want to talk about Mercury being in the houses. So like I said, this is what my mind is constantly on. So I'm constantly always thinking someone is up to alternative motives. Someone is up to something. I'm constantly trying to see beneath the veil, or I'm trying to investigate or try to understand what's going on behind the scenes. Not what a person is just saying or their actions and the shapes and form what they're showing me in front of my face, but what's actually the meanings of reasoning behind why they're coming to these terms and conditions in their life, or the conclusions that they're coming to me in the first place. That's what my mind is always on. Period. So for an example, pardon me, if your moon is in excuse me. Now, if your moon is in the 2nd house, your mind is probably always on the people, places, and things that you value, or your value systems in general, or what you have to offer to the world. If your moon is in the 3rd house, it's probably always on your surroundings, or everything that's in your close proximities, or the things that you're familiar with, whether that's a person, place, or thing. If it's in the 1st house, it's probably always on yourself. You probably think about yourself a lot and your personal issues or your personal affairs based upon a person, place, or thing that you're personally connected with, or your personality or other people's personalities in general, mainly yourself. If it's in the 7th house, your mind is probably constantly on your relationships, or how you relate to other people, places, and things, and how you can create balance with the way you communicate, or utilizing your intellect to get from point A to point B, utilizing your relationships. Now, if your Mercury in the 9th house, it doesn't like to be in the 9th house because Mercury likes to be curious and likes to look at the instructions. It doesn't really like to waste time on thinking about the meanings or reasonings behind the instructions. It just likes to know the instructions and what kind of instructions takes to make this mixture of ingredients and this alchemist. Doesn't really care the meanings and reasonings and the philosophical broad point of views of it and shit like that. So that's why Mercury don't like to be in the 9th house. But for the sake of things, it's a gift and a curse to everything. You're able to effectively learn from a logical standpoint. Philosophy matters and things of that nature. You could come up with your own philosophical terms and shit like that when it comes to that shit. So you're still smart, just maybe in a different way. Now, you know, and that's just different examples. You could go deeper than that. 12th house, your Mercury is constantly on the way you think. Your Mercury, your mind is constantly on your subconscious, which is your dreams, illusions, creativity, and imagination. So you may lose yourself and get lost into your illusions and other people that try to throw veils and manipulations over your eyes. And a lot of times you might get lost into your dreams, creativity, and imagination. So it plays out, and you may subconsciously daydream or subconsciously talk too much. But for the most part, Mercury get lost into the 12th house. But it's a gift and a curse to everything. But you could break this down into a lot of different scenarios. And that's the importance and power of motherfucking Mercury. Flight boss, bitch. Goddamn air. Ee-hee.